Hey, Composing Gloves here. I'm wearing a hat, and today we're going to be talking about hearing filters and EQs. Today I'm going to show you, and physically show you, like you will hear a difference, that an EQ, when it says, hey, this is what's happening, we have this curve here, I'm going to show you that that's a lie. There is, certainly, this is a picture of a generalization of what's happening, but it's not an accurate picture. And we're going to look at it. And then the other thing we're going to look at is how to hear your filters. Now, there's the reasons why they sound different are varied and complex. But we're just going to sort of bring it down to a level that we can understand as a producer so that we can go about our day making music and understanding why certain things sound a certain way. So that by the end of this, you'll have some exercises you can do with your own stuff to hear why things sound a certain way. And then you'll have a reason to grab a particular filter or to grab a particular synthesizer. And so, for example, I do not like using the filter in Harmor for a whole lot of reasons. And I do like it for a whole lot of other reasons. So depending on the task, I will reach for this filter, and other tasks I will reach for other filters. So let's go ahead and just start with an experiment. So I have a tone here. It's an A3 saw wave. That is what it sounds like. And I'm just muting my stuff so it doesn't come over my wonderful speakers. So we have an A3 saw wave, and you see I have some LFO automation going on here. And what this controls is it controls various low-pass filters. You can do this with every filter. We're just going to look at the low-pass. I'll let you extrapolate and gain information about the other types of filters. So our first filter observation. Now, all of them are off right now. Our first one is going to be done with Harmer's internal filter. We're going to screw around with a couple things, and then we're going to compare that to what other filters sound like. So this first one, what we have here is we have a low-pass filter. It's a crude low-pass, and it is being controlled by this LFO automation I have written right here, and it will sound like this. You notice that it doesn't really get down to that last harmonic. And, of course, I could alter it so that everything sort of shifted up, and there are ways I could get to this, but it's just not worth it to me to use a filter like this, because sometimes it's important what note I'm hitting and the harmonics that happen. You know, there are various reasons why I wouldn't want to do that. So I will usually reach for other filters if I want a really clean cut. I could mess with the width of this. So. But you see that doesn't accomplish it. But we do get a much broader filter. That's not near as sharp. And you might be wondering what's going on. We'll get to that when we get to the EQ, because the EQ, I think, visualizes it the best. The other thing is that this filter, you notice that it is filtering this stuff off. So it's not like an equalizer in that it hits a limit. Like I believe the Fruity EQ, each band can give like negative 18 decibels. And this one, it filters it out. So it could be like 72 decibels plus, like something crazy. That will affect the curve and the shape. We'll look at that as well. So another thing we should also be aware of is how it sounds with resonance. So we have these various widths. This is the sharpest, and this is, of course, it leaves a lot more blur, a lot more room. And I'm using buzzwords right now just to give you something to grab onto. And then we have this resonance. And we can adjust the width of the resonance. So these can be quite jarring sounds. So I'm sorry if you find this a little jarring, but so we've observed what this sounds like. So next we're gonna mute this one, and we're gonna say, well, geez, what does the fast filter look like? And now the fast filter is a plugin included with FL Studios, and it should be in your filter section. I'm not sure if I put it there in mine. I believe they put it there for you. So filter section, and then it should be there. If it's not, you can go to more plugins and search for it, and you will find it. Now the fast filter resembles the Harmer's knob with the width all the way, with the width up, with it like this. So it's a much broader filter. It has sort of a sweeping motion. And if we were to audition this one, so we'll turn it on, and this is what that one sounds like. And you see it does get down to that last harmonic. If we turn on the resonance, we get a different resonance feel. You see, it's more like it's like it's a lot sharper. We're going to use the term sharper. When we get to the EQ, which is next, we'll see this in a little more action. But you see, it's a much broader filter. And so I actually like this one quite a bit while I'm working, especially for really fast filter moves. So it lends itself to a particular type of sound, and it's important for me to get familiar with this. Pretty much any filter plug you get is going to sound slightly different. And you hear really complicated filters that do some really interesting things and really uncomplicated filters. So anyways, that's what that filter sounds like. So this is a great way to familiarize yourself with this. Now we're going to turn that one off and we're going to turn on the equalizer, the parametric EQ2. Now this filter, if we use this as a filter, we're going to get some bleed because we're doing low pass filters, right? So I have a low pass set up, and you can do, this is where we're going to sort of see some things. So first off, notice that it says we have no resonance. At least that's what it claims. And right now it pretty much will. I have it on order gentle 4. So filters can have different orders, and the orders determine the number of decibels per octave that a sound is being reduced. So if you have a first order filter, every octave of frequencies, the slope will go down 6 dB. So 6 decibels of reduction. And then if you had a two order filter, it would go down 12. So it would be, or they'll call it a pole. It's a two pole filter. It'll go down 12 decibels per octave. And so the orders get a little bit steeper. They begin to look like that. And you see we get a little bump here. And that's showing the resonance. So this EQ does tell some truth, but it generalizes quite a bit. So we're going to experiment with this in a little bit right now. So the first thing we should note is we're only going to get 18 decibels. This is reducing the gain. It is not filtering out our signal all the way. 18 is not enough to get rid of the signal. So if I play this one, so here we'll play it. You see that it's brushing on top. If we wanted to get rid of it, we would need to add a couple additional filters to aid it in reducing that. And if we get enough reduction, it'll sound nice. But that's one reason why you'd reach for a filter instead. But you can accomplish some pretty interesting things. Now, on here, we have these different orders. And so we have steep 8, 6, 4. I actually have not looked up what these ones specifically mean because I doubt that it's a order 8 filter, and they say steep. So the fact that it says steep makes me wonder. But anyways, it's a sharper filter, and you can see that it shows that we get a little bit of boost. This is what I'm talking about with the filters and resonance. Whenever you have a filter, the steeper it gets, you begin to make trade-offs. The math forces you to sort of make a trade on what you want. So if it's a really steep filter, you will get a much higher, you'll get a resonance boost where that filter cut is. If it's a longer filter, you won't get as much as of a resonance boost, but it will take longer for the frequencies to get turned down in volume. And there's a whole bunch of different types of filters. There's the Butterworths. There's one that starts with a CH. It's like Shekepsky or something. I think I just butchered that, so that was bad. But anyways, there's a whole load of them. And if you get into the math side of things, to programming, DSP, you will become very familiar with them. But for us, we don't care too much. But some EQs, like the Air EQ, allows you to choose different curves. And there are other curves that aren't necessarily, they're filters, but in a different way. Like a Boss? I forgot the name. It starts with a B, and it's a curve that just continually goes up. It's different than a high shelf filter in that a high shelf, reaches up and stays there. Basel, something with a B. And it will go up and up and up and up and up, on and on. So anyway, so there are different types of filters that will do those different things for you. And we need to be aware of what they sound like, because not only does this happen, but something called, during this band where frequencies are being turned down, is called the transition band. And this transition band in any filter or equalizer will invite some issues. One of them is phase shifts. And so I'm not going to get into linear phase equalization or anything right now. But what happens is you have the frequencies at your cutoff will suffer a shift and because those frequencies they're shifting their phase just a little bit, your entire spectrum will sum differently. Sometimes this doesn't matter at all, most of the time, but occasionally it creates some audible effects that are not desirable. And so you need to be aware that can happen to your equalizer or your filter. Your filter can be inducing that through the transition band. Now, if you're moving a filter, that invites a whole new realm of problems, because now it's going through and turning, it's like a whole nother deal. We're talking about static filters right now. So we're moving filters. So we're just getting a feel for what these sound like in motion. Static filters, I mean, you can mess with it all you want. But anyways, I'm just clarifying right now, because when you move a filter, that's like a whole nother ball game, because now you're dynamically changing things. And some plugins aren't designed to be automated like that. They can be automated, but they're not supposed to be. And if you do automate them, you'll get what's called zipper noise, because they were not optimized to be automated. And so they will actually make the clicking noise as it tries to recalculate all the data, because every time you move it, it's trying to recalculate that. It's not been designed to incorporate motion. So anyways, that's a little bit of that. So let's take a look. Let's take another listen to this let's take a listen to it at a gentle 4. So here's what it sounds like. Now, you could tell that there's not very much resonance, if any. It's not noticeable resonance. There is some broad resonance. Now, resonance is a boost in the cutoff. So this bump right here that I've created, if this moved in tandem with my filter, it would be a resonance. This would be resonance. It'd be a resonance boost. So it would move around. And you can have resonance boosts that look like this, resonance boosts that look like this, resonance boosts that look like this. So the one from the fast filter probably was something closer to this, something kind of sharp that followed our cutoff around like this. Some filters get really complicated. They have like boosts that go like this, and when this moves over here, this goes up, that goes there, and that goes there. Like, some people get really, really complicated with the filter movements they have to try and accomplish a particular effect. So we're not going to get into anything that crazy, but you can use the EQ to sort of model stuff like that. But again, you're going to be dealing with the fact that this only goes down to negative 18 decibels, and you'll probably get into something complicated. EQ, I'll use all the time in that way for tonal and timbral shifts. Just trying to create interesting texture, not necessarily to filter something out. So we're going to play this. Now we're going to go up to a gentle 8. Now let's go back to 4 and compare it. So we get a little more resonance with that one. Now if we go up to a steep 4, now we're getting substantial resonance, and the resonance they're showing you is not fair. There is more resonance than that happening. If we go up to 8, it goes up a little bit. Like, it's not, that's whatever. I believe this is the algorithm that's calculating this line, but it's certainly not the actual what's happening. Just listen. That's like a cutoff like that, like flying around, like a resonance peak like that. So yeah, anyways, so your EQs are lying to you. Pretty much most EQs lie to you. I don't have experience with any Fab Filter products or anything, but I'm just telling you about this one. It's not a bad thing. People who know their crap know about this, and so they know that that's a thing. But you need to be aware of it so that when you're producing and stuff, you do not have, you're not falling for crap like this. You're not wondering why things sound like that. Why does there sound like resonance? See, look at that. I should only have that much resonance. Like, yeah, you don't need to worry about that. You now know the reason why. So it's because this filter is so steep, it's inviting a resonance peak. And so as it moves, you get more resonance movement. Okay, so that's EQ, the EQ deal, and pretty much all EQs fall into that more or less. Some EQs like TDR Nova offer really high cutoff values, like 72 decibels an octave. Like, that's an incredibly sharp filter. So it's gonna suffer from some of those, and it will even let some of the highs through. If you like put white noise through it and then do it, you'll hear. If you put it on the low end, the filter will be so far away that some of the curve won't actually reach all the way to the high end. I believe that's only with, let me show you. So we'll bring open, man, forget this, man. TDR Nova. So we're going to load that up, and we're going to just turn all these off. We're going to turn on the high pass, and we're going to turn it on. We're going to turn on the low pass. And we're going to turn off the EQ gain, because that could mess crap up. And we're going to turn our low pass on to 72. I believe if you go to 108, it's more noticeable. But now we're going to send some white noise through this thing. Move this down. Add a noise generator. Okay. So you hear that? This should be filtering down to 10 hertz. Now if we... Sorry about that. Okay, so it should be coming into TDR Nova, and we still hear that upper end. If we move this up, but you can see on our spectrum, there it is. And you see, it doesn't even tell you that. It does not even say, hey, look at this. Look at there's signal there. No, it doesn't. Now, wait. Okay, wait. Let me give it a chance. Let's go to Analyzer Out. It showed us it there for a second, but it's not showing you, and it's not showing you that. But on our analyzer does. And if we break out another analyzer, a signal analyzer, go to spectrum, we see that it's there, that really high stuff and some of this stuff. If we change to a less extreme filter type, like 12, it goes away. So that's what I'm pointing out here. That's all I mean to point out is that relationship that's going on. And a lot of people just don't know about it. So they might have really sharp filters, and then they might be wondering why their high end's so bright, or it might be brighter than they expect, or they might just not know about it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that you're aware of. So now you know what the issue is. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's go into the Fruity Love filter. So in the Fruity Love filter, we have similar options. Now this has a load of filters that you can mess with, and you see they even give you options for the different poles. They have triple, all dual, and you can see that even if we have a filter that are both 12 decibels per octave, we get very different sounds based on the curves they use. So you could choose your variables accordingly. But let's go ahead and listen to this guy do its job, and let's go ahead, make sure he's on, make sure the other things are off. Okay, so here we go. So it's pretty fair. It sounds like a filter, and if we bring up the resonance, we can listen to what that boost, what that peak would sound like. So you see, it's got a pretty narrow Q, but the Q is referring to the bandwidth of the resonance. But you know, sometimes these will change as you go. So you see that like Harmor is really cool. It gives you a width knob. So that's the filter. And if we play around with different curves, now these aren't super noticeable differences, but they could be depending on your material you're filtering. So that's dual, here's single. Now that is quite noticeable. But if we go to like dual and then alt dual, meaning alternate dual, one's a little bit bright. This is a little more dull. Yeah, also interprets. I'm not sure if it gives it a different resonance. I bet it does. I'm willing to bet it does. I don't know though. And then alt triple. So you get these various flavors. You see the resonance really brings out those flavors because it emphasizes the thing right before the cutoff. And then the resonance can also enhance the phase shift that's occurring at the cutoff. So this can contribute to the problem, or it can enhance it. Maybe it's doing something you really like. Now, this is even more cool in synthesis. You see old synthesizers, that's what they used to generate their volume contours. Like that was the tool. You just used a filter to generate, your volume knob. They didn't have like a volume knob. You just had that. So you see here in Monarch, we have filter envelope, and it's determined by a filter. Like the filter is what makes the sound that way. And as we turn the cutoff on and off, what's nifty is the resonance and the way this cutoff interact with this are really, really organic. So if I play some notes, and then we have an envelope that this filter follows. So it's a little more in depth. For you people who are into synthesis, you'll pick this up right away. But for you who are a little more new at this may be a little bit of a mysterious concept. But it's one of the things that makes this sound the way it does. And if we move our resonance up, we see it's moving. So there's a lot more going on. In fact, if we really wanted to, we could turn that on and we could dive in and start trying to figure it out. So I'm not that big of a reactor buff to be able to do that quite yet. But that's an interesting thing. That is what's going on here. So if you want to create a synth like that, you have to set up a similar configuration. And so when I'm doing stuff and I want filter movement like this, what I'll do is I will combine multiple filters. So let's do that now. So let's go back to our original filter and turn off our other ones. And then let's combine the various filters, the three filters we have here, so I could show you how you can get a much tighter filter sound. So ideally, you just combine them. Now, I have them all in separate automation, but if you're going to do this, you can link them to one automation clip so that you don't have all these automation clips everywhere. So as we play it, we have our original filter working. Let's add the Fruity Fast Low-Pass filter, and that's going to give it, a different type of sound. We still get some of the resonance from from Harmor. But we also, that's another thing to note too. It says the resonance off. And of course, I have it on. Never mind. That's why there's resonance there. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, okay, here's it without the resonance. There we go. At least I'm using my ears. So now let's try a different low pass. Let's see what here. We have this one down here called hybrid low pass, snake low pass, the leaky low pass. So let's see what that one sounds like. Can you see now why it's called the leaky low pass? So it's more like an E. It's more sounds like the EQ sort of. Let's go to the hybrid low pass. See, that also changes the resonance. So the way the resonance behaves. So you can come in here and you just mess around with this. And you see the low frequency is like totally unaffected by this, which is like, I want it to go down lower. So now we'll turn on the fast low pass and combine it. And you remember it had a more broad sound. So if we wanted to tight like we could get a much tighter, very percussive like variation on that using this. And then what we could do is we can mix them on and off so that they sound different, so that you could get a wider sound and a softer sound. What do I mean by that? I mean, we could take this one and we could automate its minimum value. And so we at first we'll have this. But let's say we want a little more open sound. We'll just turn the minimum value of this up. So it's essentially like I'm moving all these points up to like there. And we're combining filters so we get a combination. Now this bottom filter is taking out mostly the fundamental. That's what we're after with that one. Now if we turn this one on, that's with all of them combined. So you see we also get this sort of, it influences the resonance in weird ways as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about filters. That's about hearing them. I encourage you to go and open up a bunch of filters and try them out. There's a whole load of additional interesting experiments we could do. You could still mess with high pass, band pass, state variable filters, all sorts of weird things. We could even get into the idea of compressors and how they multi-band compressors and how they split your signal and weird things you could do with that. Another thing you should be aware of is these are technically also filters. They are basically all-pass filters. And all-pass filters, either pass all the signal or it doesn't pass all the signal. So here we've got a signal, and this we could call this bang. It is filtering all the frequencies. So it's right now it's passing all the frequencies. So volume knobs are basically, that's what they are. Some volume knobs function more like the fast low pass though, where they're basically a low pass filter that just turns down frequencies really fast. Not necessarily like this, but they're more like this. There's like a curve that goes down, why the whole thing goes down at the same time. It's an interesting deal, but you can check that out for yourself. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe, support me on Patreon, and have a blessed day.